The police officer cannot testify because he's part of the action. If he is bringing the action, then he is going to have to prove how he was personally injured. And if he cannot claim a personal injury, he's now in violation of Rule 17 and the Rules of Evidence of 602. Because you don't have a claim, because if you're sitting down claiming that I injured the statute, now you're back under administrative law, in which case, as an administrative law judge under the Administrative Procedure Act, I have to be the plaintiff to bring a claim against the police officer for bringing false charges. And are you aware that this police officer is practicing law out on the road without a license? Are you aware that he's impersonating a judge because he is writing out summonses, which this is a judge's job to write out a summons? And if he confiscated my vehicle, you realize he acted as a prosecutor. Now you're sitting here telling me that you have to find me guilty because this police officer acted as a judge, he wrote out a summons, he confiscated my car as a prosecutor, and he's practicing law as a lawyer. Now telling me. Now I want to sit down, I want to ask this man some questions about the law. I want to know what his degree is. 9 times out of 10, a judge will tell you, well, this man isn't to know the law. Then, excuse me, if he is not to know the law, then he can't quote the law, he can't write the law, and he can't practice law. These are some of the things that we need to start being able to talk about when we get into the court. We need to have this stuff on the tip of our tongue when we're educating people of what we're doing. Now I'm going to go on here with what we're talking about, because that Administrative Procedure Act, people, do not misunderstand. There is a real administrative court out here. This goes back into this Alice in Wonderland. We have a real orange that come off of a real orange tree. And then we've got a wooden orange that was made out of an orange tree. It has all the same smell and all the same texture. One is organic, and the other one is fraud. And they had to go back in and name these courts administrative in order to confuse the people so they would never find the true administrative court that we could go back in and hold them accountable under 60 Stat 237. They've kept this hid. Now, even these courts are diverting us and trying to sidestep us because they know if we ever find, I don't know what's going on with that. The audio is low and weak. I'm basically having just a closed hearing right now with what we're doing. Just sort of sit back and just hang loose here, listen the best you can. You may have to reboot because I've had to do that a couple times for me to get in. But there are real administrative courts. Don't confuse these with the disciplinary council. Don't confuse these with the Supreme Court, because this court has nothing to do with the Supreme Court, and it has nothing to do with the disciplinary council. This is an administrative office all to itself. And as I said, if you go back in, play with the words, Ohio is Department of Administrative Service. North Carolina is Office of Administrative Hearing. Florida has Division of Administrative Hearings. Washington State has Office of Administrative Hearings. So play with the words here. We also discovered that there are forms that has to be filled out with your complaint in order to get in. Where people were making a mistake, and I did the same thing. I just filed a complaint in, and they're shuffling me around. Well, I found the form. Now I put the form in with my third complaint with the notice of felony for the third time on this judge. I'm waiting to see what happens here. But there's one on every state level. The DMV has its own administrative court. The reason why I found this out is a gentleman out there in California used to work for DMV. This is where the truckers go. If a trucker gets picked up for some type of violation, they don't go into municipal courts. they come up in front of the Department of Motor Vehicles administrative hearings. Now, this is something for us to start thinking about when we start getting a ticket, is that we start demanding a DMV administrative hearing to see if we are in commerce. Because according to the DMV, they can only hear issues that deals in commerce. Now, what gives this municipal court the right, or the county court, to suspend your license whenever DMV is an department of its own? We're starting to find out there are other administrative courts. The same thing with child services. If you're dealing with a daycare, there is an administrative office for daycare. There is an administrative office for IRS. That's in Title 26. If you go back and read parts of Title 26, they will tell you that the IRS is an administrative office, and they do have an administrative hearing board to hear and review your cases. And none of us has ever been up in front of that board, because they've always brought you into a federal district court of some state and never brought you up before the IRS hearing board. Nobody knew this. Like I said, we found out. We're starting to run it. We're starting to advertise it on what we're doing.